what happened. We changed the culture in Selfridges to be such a strong culture that was absolutely focused on the customer. Every single person in the organization knew their role in delivering customer experience. Not just the front of house people who were interacting with customers directly, but also the buyers, the operators, the IT people, the HR people. They knew their role in supporting the frontline scorers of the tries. They were maybe in the back line, but they knew they had a job to do in supporting the front line. And it's that simple concept of recognizing that every customer coming in is entitled and deserves a great experience. It did improve, but there's still a huge gap in where they need to be today. And I say that honestly, because I go in there regularly and I still work with them, I still know them, and I wish it was better, but it's an ongoing challenge. And that's the challenge that Bayley's faces with 1,000+ different guys like you interacting with customers in a franchise operation. It's an ongoing challenge that every one of us has a role to play. Let's just make no mistake here. This is like a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm not talking about customer service just to be fluffy. There's real money in customer service. There's real cash when you deliver great service. It does make a difference. It does make people spend today, come back again in the future, and recommend friends. So it kind of makes me think, what is the challenge there for Bayley's? Well, look, how do you grow organically and not just rely on the market when it's going up or down? Because that's dodgy. If you're relying on the market growth to increase your sales, I don't think that's enough. So taking inspiration from John and that personal belief and the art of the possible, I think that's a challenge for you. How do you grow organically? How can you be more customer-centric? How to be consistent and so on, but also your personal brand. Well, let's move on then and look at, there's a few things in your favor that you already have in your toolkit. And I want to get you to open up your toolkit and remember some of the things that you have already today. For example, Bayley's has a fantastic North Star. Here it is. This is your North Star, your vision and your mission and purpose. But look, I've exaggerated. You're already saying that as an organization, you recognize that customer experience is the new battleground. You have it in your North Star. And it is about saying you want to deliver superior. That means better. Superior doesn't just mean great, it means better than other people. And when you think like that about being better and just being stronger, that will help you to close that gap and get your 2.5% and not feel shy and not feel under pressure to have to pull back on your rate because you're under pressure and somebody else is quoting a lower rate. But when you're really focusing on the three legs of the stool and you're proud and you're building your personal brand to deliver on that, that will help you to defend your rate. But superior customer service, what I'm saying with this is stay in your lane. Don't deviate into another lane of giving shoddy or less superior customer service. This is a lane that has been defined by Bayley's brand. It has stood it to good stead for the last 50 years. But for you as an individual within your own business, you too have got to just stay focused on this mantra of delivering great, superior customer service. Take time with your colleagues over the weekend or next week to revisit what does good look like under the three-legged stool, remembering you want to be in the top right-hand corner of the matrix. But refresh these simple points. Get out the back of an envelope and scribble them out. What does good look like? Because this is where you're going to help you to stay on your lane. We also looked at culture. Now, culture, what is culture? Culture can be defined in so many different ways. Well, let me be very simple. In my hand, I've got an incredibly powerful device. It's an iPhone. 132 gigabyte of memory, touchscreen, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, the whole shooting gallery. It's an incredible piece of hardware that is absolutely useless without the operating system that powers it. Software, hardware. In your business, you've got lots of hardware. You've got your strategy. You've got your offices. You've got your advertising. You've got your branding. That's all hardware, if you will. The software is in here. The software is all about the interactions, how you interact with each other, how you behave. And how do you work that out? As an organization, in my consulting company, we help organizations all the time to refresh their culture. How do we do that? It's all about values, a framework of values. Every one of us in this room, we live our personal lives by a set of values that include words like respect, integrity, honesty, benevolence, etc. There's 40 of them. You live them in different extremes. But take respect for a second, and I want you to imagine you're going home this evening on the metro. You jump on here at the station and you get a seat. You're sitting comfortably, reading your phone. And as the train moves on its journey, all the seats fill up. No seats left, but you're sitting. And then the train moves to another stop, and a pregnant woman gets on board. Now, what do you do instinctively without having to refer to a checklist? What will I do now? You give up your seat. You give up your seat because that's instinctive. Because in here, in your core, you are taught as a child to be respectful. You are taught that when you find yourself in a situation, you behave accordingly. Just like honesty, you don't steal, etc. So getting up and giving your seat is a behavior. That's a behavioral response to that value called respect. And that's the secret to culture. And Bayley's has already cracked this one. You have a set of values, there they are. They are your values. And look, they're telling you already. The values are telling you already. You know these. If I asked you to write them down without seeing the checklist, you might have struggled. And that's a pity, because they're great values. And I implore you to revisit them, because these are just helpful prompts and frameworks and stimuli to keep you on track, to support the brand positioning, to really drive the customer experience, to really build your own personal brand. So look at the values, refresh them, and relive them. Because when values are prescribed like this, they need to be embedded. They need to be lived. They need to be lived by every one of us. You know, when culture is not lived, here's what happens. If culture is not being embraced and engaged by each one of us, here's what happens. Each one of us, based on our own experience and our own CVs, how we've grown up in our careers, well, the default then might be our own current style, which could be at variance with, for example, the company values. For example, if you're a very operations-focused person, looking down, keeping the administration and the processes right, less than looking up and interfacing with customers and giving them the great experience that they need and deserve, that's a difference in culture. It's not a huge shift, but it is a difference. So, when you don't have that, it leads to an inconsistency, and that's a danger for any brand. Every one of us has a role to play. We all need to have a personal commitment to the values, because they have worked. They have brought Bayley's to success that it has already got over the last 50 years. So why wouldn't you just embrace them and keep them going? So that recognizing with that customer-centric one that it is about putting the customer at the heart of everything that we do, with no let-up. It's constant. It's doing whatever it takes to make the customer feel great, that they will come back again and again. We all need to take a fresh look at ourselves. John did a great job, as I said. But now, look at yourself. And recognize, too, that, look, we have to change. It's within us to change, but we have to embrace change. We all embrace change when it's not controversial. Like if there's new fashions, new music, new laws, we take them on. But some things we find a bit more resistance within ourselves to change. And I want to challenge that, because we all react differently to change. And I want you to think about this when you leave here this evening and start next Monday morning about what changes do you need to make. If, for example, you want to aspire towards John's 10x aspiration, that's brilliant. But how to change? What do you need to change? And what's your own personal attitude to change? Well, let me just describe different styles of reaction to change. And I've done a lot of study because my second My third book was about change management, so I had to do a lot of study into the concept of change and the psychology of change to almost put my name to that book. And what I'm seeing is that there's 3 different styles of response to change. Some people are like Speedy. In other words, they are embracing change. In fact, they're not just waiting for it, they're out there disrupting. They go looking for opportunities to change without having to be told. And they go and they knock it out of the park. Others within us are more like the harmony, where, yeah, okay, we need to be convinced, we're happy with the way things are, we don't feel we need to change until we're told and we're challenged and we're sold on the idea of needing to change. And then, yeah, we tend to go along. We don't resist it. At first in our heads we might, but then we do go along. But then the third type of reactor is what I call a comfy. And this is the person who is much happier within their comfort zone and doing things the way they've always done them. This person, you'll often hear them saying, yeah, but look, we always did it this way. There's nothing more irritating for us to hear that expression, particularly in a world of change. But I have some sympathy for comfies because I don't believe comfies are being difficult. They're not negative people. There is a science behind why comfies are comfies. And why? Well, there's a few things. I mean, it could be that they've had bad experiences in the past. Maybe they saw friends or family losing their job because of change, particularly when they see a consultant coming in. Or maybe they've had an upbringing that kind of makes them feel a bit more nervous, or they've had trauma, etc. There can be reasons why people resist change. But there's also some genetic reasons. Like the amygdala in the brain, which is that part of the brain that detects danger, and it can cause us to close down when we see things that are new or a threat. And that can cause us to resist change. Or it could be just the way our experiences, like, for example, our survival mechanisms going back millions of years, thousands of years, I should say, where in the days gone by, caveman days, there was that sense of danger, just protect yourself. And also, of course, risk aversion. There are some people that are just naturally risk averse. They don't like to be challenged. They don't like change. But the point is, we have to recognize that the change is a reality. It's there all around us. We've come to the point where change is the only constant in life. So how do you avoid being a comfy? Look, again, there's so much work done in this sphere, but I will give you a couple of ideas, and that is, we all have it within us. As John said, the person stopping you is the person who's sitting in your seat. Well, we all have the power to change. Start by acknowledging your mindset. If you're finding something that's coming at you and you feel a bit resistant to it, it's okay. Just acknowledge that to yourself, that, look, I'm feeling a bit dicky here, I'm not sure about this. That's acknowledging. But of course, you have to recognize too that change, resistance is futile, because change is happening all around us. We've got to keep going. And change what you believe, because if you start thinking about acknowledging what is holding me back, that helps you to move on to thinking about, well, look, what do I need to do differently? What is it that's holding me back? And then you can start changing what you believe to move on and embrace a change. And I would also say, we've got to be careful of arrogance. Why should we think, after all, we're here today as a result of so much change that got us to where we are today. Why should we arrogantly think that change can now stop? Change doesn't stop. We have to embrace it. It's futile to resist it.